Hi everyone, it's me, Sam, and today we're going to talk about the book Girl in Pieces by Kathleen Glasgow. To begin, I just want to give like a huge trigger warning for topics of self-harm, suicide, sex, drugs, rape, vomit, etc. This entire video is going to cover these topics, so if you're not comfortable with that, that's okay. I just suggest that you skip out on this video and you can check out one of the other videos on my channel. Along with that, this is also gonna contain some spoilers to the plot of the book itself. So if you haven't read it yet and you want to read it, I suggest skipping out. But yeah, let's get into how Girl in Pieces gives such an incredible perspective on the mind of a self-harmer. When I first picked up this book from the store about a year ago, two things really caught my eye. Firstly, the title. Oddly vague and sinister, I didn't necessarily understand what I was getting into. Secondly, the cover of this book is scary, in a way. The peach-colored and textured cover gives the appearance of skin, and the red lines all over the book clearly show that it's about self-harm. As a former self-harmer, this sort of irks me a bit. Seeing self-harm has always been a trigger for me, so I was kind of super scared to read this book. And quite right I was about this book being triggering. There were times I genuinely had to put the book away because I thought it was so terrifying. But I think that's part of the beauty of the work. The nausea you experience from just looking at the cover itself travels with you throughout the book, causing you to really take a step back and think about what you're reading. Girl in Pieces tells the story of Charlotte, whom from this point on I will refer to just as Charlie. She is an avid self-harmer and the protagonist of the story, and by God will we experience agony with her. She starts out her writings in a mental hospital where she's been hospitalized due to a recent suicide attempt. After experiencing what she had gone nonverbal. Thus she was nicknamed Silent Sue. Charlie mentions many different types of self-harmers. She says, Francie is a human pincushion. She pokes at her skin with knitting needles, sticks, pins, whatever she can find. She has angry eyes and she spits on the floor. Sasha is a fat girl full of water. She cries in group, she cries at meals, she cries in her room. She'll never be drained. She is a plain cutter. Faint red lines crosshatch her arms. She doesn't go deep. Isis is a burner. Scabby, circular mounds dot her arm. These are just a couple of examples Charlie gives of the girls at her hospital. All terrified, pained girls, all hurting themselves for different reasons. A lot of the time when the media talks about self-harm, they give just plain old cutting, the easiest and most popular way. This book gives us a painful refresher that self-harm comes in all kinds of ways, for all kinds of reasons. Isis self-harms because she thinks she deserves it. Sasha hates how she looks and thinks that she's fat. Blue wants to feel erased, and Charlie just wants to cut it all out. All of those horrible feelings and dark emotions, she wants them out. Charlie refers to it as, I cut because I can't deal. It's as simple as that. Can you feel the tinge in your neck when she mentions self-harm in depth and you cringe at the thought? It is truly terrifying and it just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. As we learn more about Charlie and her life, we find out all of the horrible things she has been through, whether it is the suicide attempts or the sexual assault she experienced at such a young age. She has been through a lot. After eventually getting let out of the mental hospital, she goes on a journey to live with her old friend and crush, Mikey. A fucked up girl with a fucked up past now has to learn to live on her own. At not even 18, her mom had basically abandoned her and she was forced to travel across the country to live on her own. She only had a few things with her. One of them included her tender kit. Her tender kit consisted of all the things she needed when she self-harmed, but she had decided she wanted to get clean. She stays at her friend Mikey's for a few days before she is told she has to get a job by a woman named Ariel, Mikey's landlord, who plans on kicking her out after 2 weeks. She does find this job, and she also finds a relationship with a man named Riley. A relationship that is very fucking creepy, considering Riley is a grown-ass man and Charlie is 17 years old. A soft, tender, delicate girl gets hardened by this man. A mentally ill girl who is so vulnerable gets infiltrated by this man's love and drug problem. They had an affair, they got close. Riley isn't necessarily all bad, but I'm not here to talk about him. Charlie could have gotten clean, she could have fixed things, she was working on it. But a girl who was fighting to put herself back together was smashed back into pieces. Charlie has an intense amount of tragedies occur to her in such a short period of time. This video is not a plot summary, so I'm not going to give you much more information about the actual plot unless it's needed for context. I would rather want to speak on the message that this book offers. Charlie started in pieces and ended in patched up ones. I think the charm of this book is that Charlie's recovery is not a direct one. She goes through so many different things before she starts to be set down the right path, and the tone at the end of the novel suggests that that path is not necessarily a dead end. Along with this, Charlie tried to be saved by a lover, and for a while throughout the book I thought that she would be. I was charmed by Riley's personality, and I liked their relationship, other than the clear and creepy age gap. I really thought that the message was going to be about companionship and healing with one another. But now that I finished the book, I think it's the opposite. I think Glasgow is telling us that solving your problems by throwing love into it simply doesn't work. Towards the end of the book, we see a redeemable Riley and how he's trying to atone for his mistakes. But Charlie doesn't respond to this by getting back together with him. No, they make a connection. But she still makes the mature decision to leave that life behind, because unlike some romance authors that glamorize abuse, Glasgow recognizes that love will absolutely not solve everything. Furthermore, Glasgow's representation of different types and reasons for self-harm shows a clear understanding that self-harm and depression is not the glamorized version that it has been made out to be. Depression is bloody, uncomfortable, and disgusting. Depression can be bad breath in a dirty room, but it can also be glass shattered on the floor and deep, bone-chilling metal tasting in your mouth. Mental illness can be a little socially anxious, or depression can be an intense suicide attempt and a drug problem. All of these different issues are wrapped up into a bunch of intensely fucked up characters. And while my experience may not have been as intense as Charlie's, never once did I feel invalidated that my self-harm wasn't good enough. I think Glasgow understands that comparative self-harm is a huge issue, so even her briefly touching on different ways depression manifests is so important for an internal experience from the reader. She speaks of suicide, self-harm, relapsing, the pull and tug of life, intense mental illness, drug addiction. It is all there wrapped up into an engaging and tragic story, and nobody would ever feel like their experience is left out. My biggest message that I want to put out when I talk about this book is to just be careful. If you have a history or are triggered by any of the things I mentioned in this video so far, you need to be careful if you want to read this book, because it makes you feel things. It makes you feel things that are going to remind you of how you might have felt when you self-harmed, or if you still do it. And at times it is quite scary. It forces you to reminisce quite a bit. But it also shows you that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Things are so difficult now more than ever for a lot of people. But I just want my audience to know that you guys are loved, and that ending things is never, ever the answer. You are a beautiful person, and one day those scars you have will turn into battle scars. You are brave, and you have fought battles that some people can't even imagine fighting. On the screen will be the suicide hotline number and some websites to reach out to, which will also be down below in the description. Never be scared to tell someone how you're feeling, and please, please, please remember that you are loved. So that's pretty much going to be it from me today. Overall, I give this book a 10 out of 10. I completely recommend it, and I didn't even cover half the topics that I could have in this video. If you want to see a video going more in depth into self-harm and more in depth into depression and suicide, I am so into that idea. I just wanted to give an overall perspective on how this book works compared to maybe some other novels that talk about depression. It's my favorite book right now, and I hope that some of you will give it a read. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. I'm almost at 200 subscribers, so I'm really, really happy. Adore all the support that I've been getting. Also, make sure to check out my Etsy shop. I have my normal stickers on there that I usually have, and I just uploaded some new products, including beaded keychains and hair clips. If you'd like to commission me, you can contact me with the email in the description. Anyway, that's gonna be it for today.